The Blocktalk podcast started because of my passion for the property management industry. I wanted to start a conversation and add some value within the industry with a diverse range of people and professionals who can add something extra. As we start out, my aim is that the podcast offers some useful insight into a variety of views, opinions, thoughts, and foresights from our guests, who include business leaders and industry experts. If you enjoy the podcast and want to find out any other information, head on over to brianwelsh.co.uk. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Blocktalk podcast with me, Brian Welsh, and Jax Bruce. Jax, how are you?
I am absolutely amazing. My laptop is now changed.
Oh wow, great! So we're not going to hear it taking off during podcasts. Yeah, good.
No washing machine sounds, nothing. So it's nice and quiet. So I am over the moon. I said to Will, the IT director, on Tuesday, I will be skipping into the office on Thursday. Simple minds are easily amused, I think. Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm all right, except we might have an additional kind of bit of chatting. The dog is Arthur's not overly happy because he didn't get his. It's just past 1 o'clock. He didn't get his lunchtime walk, so because it was chucking it down, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. We'll wait. And actually, the sun's shining now, so after this, we'll be heading out. But he may. He seems all right at the moment, but he may get a bit yappy later on during this. Okay, so today we are delighted to be chatting to Aimee Konieczny, Head of Client Relationships at Indigo Swan. Aimee looks after the energy contract enthusiasts, ensuring they're providing great advice to their clients. And for Aimee, those clients are primarily property management companies, hence why she's on. She offers daily support and guidance so they can enjoy coming into the nest every day. Aimee has a degree in environmental sciences and has worked in the energy industry since graduating. She joined Indigo Swan in 2015. Hi, Aimee. We've met a couple of times. Thanks very much for coming on. How are you doing today?
Hi, Brian. Hi, Jax. I'm doing really well in sunny Norwich. Thank you ever so much. No rain down here, just to make you jealous.
Yeah. I keep noticing that the north of the border tends to be getting some pretty rubbish weather at the moment. Everyone's all right.
Absolutely.
Good. Well, thanks for coming on. So the nest, tell us more about that.
Yeah, so the nest is what we call our lovely central Norwich office.
Okay.
You have to get all of these swan puns in when you've got a name like Indigo Swan. So
We're
based in the heart of Norwich, which is a lovely, relatively small market city, I guess, in Norfolk. We've got customers all over the UK, especially property managers up in Scotland. We are an energy consultancy, otherwise known as a third-party intermediary, a TPI, or more conventionally, a broker. So we are helping customers with electricity and gas contracts, but our focus is on providing great customer service. We focus on electricity, gas, sustainability, and all done with our lovely team of 26 swans.
Fabulous. So talking about swans, you've been with Indigo Swan for 7 years now, if I can count correctly.
Yeah.
What changes have you seen across the industry and the property management industry as well in terms of energy?
Yeah. So most recently, I would say the price volatility and sensitivity in the market has been the biggest change I've seen. So I've been at Indigo Swan 7 years, but since graduating, so where are we at? What's that? 12 years or so ago. I've been in energy industry.
Right, okay.
But yes, since COVID, since the height of the pandemic, when we saw absolutely rock bottom prices to the start of 2022, where we've seen higher than ever prices, that volatility has just been so unforeseen and never experienced before. And I think that's been a major change, is the sensitivity of wholesale prices to the global situation. It's always been there, but I don't think we've ever really seen it like we have recently.
Yep.
Specifically around like contracts, in my 7 years here, we've had such a push towards green contracts. So customers actively seeking a more sustainable, more renewable electricity procurement option. And I think that's a great thing. So when I started, you used to have to pay quite a high premium if you wanted a green contract. There wasn't a lot of choice. You had to pay a lot more. The suppliers weren't as into it. But now I would say over 70% of the suppliers that we work with offer green as standard. So they are offering their customers renewable contracts just as normal, without any extra cost, which is fantastic. Specifically for property managers, I think, so our customers in property management firms have got a much better understanding of energy now. They know when their bills are missing. They understand how to update VAT for residents. They get it. And I think that education piece over the last 7 years has been something I have worked on, Indigo Swan has worked on, but I think the property managers themselves have really embraced. It's not something just to be ignored anymore. It's something that has to be given suitable attention.
Sure.
And I think we've got lots of companies as well pushing for green, but also in property management really pushing for smart meters. And I think that's going to be something that we've started to see the rollout now across the industry, across property management firms, which is great. But then I think there is still more to be done there as well.
Okay. That sounds as if it's been quite busy over all of that period of time. I guess, I mean, I was just thinking about this when you were saying that, and we have a lot of mutual clients, and one of the biggest challenges for our clients was, if you've got, I don't know, 1,000 developments, then there's that have a common supply, then there's 1,000 invoices you need to post every quarter. So we have I think a lot of our mutual clients have an integration piece where they can just upload the stuff from your systems as well, which I think has been massively beneficial to our clients, from working with you guys as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So what changes do you see happening over the next 7 years then within your industry, or certainly how your industry supplies and talks to the property management industry?
So specifically, I think the relationship between energy consultants and property management firms is going to come down to good rollouts of smart meters. I do think property managers need to embrace smart meters. I think we need to be communicating to residents the positive elements of smart meters, and with some of the really complex portfolios that are spread across wide geographical areas, taking meter readings is near on impossible. So then relying on residents to provide their own meter readings, we all know the challenges that come with that, accuracy and timeliness, and just general willingness to support the factors and property management firms in doing that. So I think smart meters is going to have some real positive outcome for property management firms and their residents as a consequence. I also think that we're going to see, we're already seeing some of our customers, property management firms, looking for solar PV panels to be installed. They want electric vehicle charge points to be installed. So I think property management is really going to embrace technological advances over the next kind of 7, 10, 15 years, however long, because it's for the interest of the building and the fabric of the building, and having all of these things. The residents may come and go, but the actual building needs to become more sustainable through the use of solar PV. You've got more projects hooking up of district heating, communal heating. So a single gas meter coming into a block of flats, and then you're measuring the heat output into every flat unit, and that's how you're getting charged. That's really sustainable. That's much better than individual gas suppliers all the time. So I think real technological advancements is really going to be what property management sees over the next 7-ish years.
Okay. Yeah, no, that is interesting. We had someone on the podcast a number of months ago, in fact, right at the beginning, on the principles of one of our clients, and he was talking about that whole solar panel stuff and electric charging points. I mean, he and I had a conversation on that. It was Derek McDonald at Newton, actually, and he and I had a conversation about the fact that now I've actually moved house now, but at that time when we did the the chat, there wasn't one publicly available car charging point in the area that my parking permit covered. And now we're talking about the West End of Glasgow here, and we're talking just into the West End, and it's utterly crazy. Now, to be fair, they did fit to just as I was moving, but I now have an electric hybrid, and I'm about, I don't know, 20 miles now. I live outside Glasgow now, and I'm about 20 miles maybe from the office, and I can actually get to the office and back on one charge.
It's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. In fact, I've had a full tank of fuel in my car for about a month, and I've been on holiday, and I've never had to use it. So, and that's just one thing that I can see the power of that sustainability. But and actually, I've thought about having solar panels. I have a house down on the Isle of Wight, and I just a wee kind of holiday place, and I've seriously thought about putting solar panels on the top of that, and I've had people out to look at it, and even just individual houses, the benefits to that could be enormous.
Yeah, absolutely. So we at the beginning of this year actually had solar panels installed on our own house.
Right.
I recently had my own EV charge point installed in anticipation, we hope, of the delivery of my new car in July. And my rationale for that was, if I'm going to get a new car, I want to have the lowest running cost possible. And seeing what was happening with power prices, I really wanted to protect myself from higher power prices, higher fuel prices. So going down the joint solar panel EV vehicle route really kind of works well for us. But I appreciate it's just such a hard decision to make at the moment with all the challenges that people are facing, cost of living. If there is anything that people could do to reduce their consumption, that's the first place to start. And then all this sustainability thing just is a nice kind of next step almost. But get it on your house in the Isle of Wight, definitely, Brian.
Yeah, so I have had someone come out and have a look at it, and they reckon that even I think he came out in April, beginning of April, I think, end of March, beginning of April, and even at that time of year, the sun hit both. And now it's south facing the house, but even the north facing back elevation got sun at the end of March, and I'm like,
perfect.
He said you could put it on both sides. So I'm really interested in this sort of stuff, and I've actually thought about putting it in up here as well, but I'm not so convinced about Scotland and solar. Although every new house, if you drive down the M77 from where I stay into the centre of town, sorry, excuse me, the dog is demanding to get out of my office. I don't quite know where he's off to, but anyway, he's off out. When you drive down the M77, all of the new houses have some sort of solar on them. Yeah, that may only be a couple of panels, but they all have something. So
it's just enough to take the edge off high bills, isn't it? It's just enough to, if you can run your washing machine, run your dishwasher, do anything like that, just for free, essentially, in the daytime. Why not? I mean, it's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is. It is. Okay, so what do you believe are the main challenges facing the renewable energy industry over the next few years?
So there really is one major challenge, and that is connectivity to the grid. So the actual network infrastructure running up and down the country is aging. Historically, maybe it's been lacking in investment. It's just not geared up for intermittent generation from wind power, from solar power, from offshore, onshore, and all of that kind of thing. And the costs associated with that are really, really high. So in Norfolk, for example, there's a consultation going through at the moment to put a new transmission line. So transmission networks are essentially the motorways of the electricity network, and distribution networks of the A roads. So there's lots more distribution network, but the actual major infrastructure is the motorway, the transmission network. There's going to be a new transmission line from centre of Norfolk down to Tilbury and Essex to bring all of the offshore wind turbines, allowing them to be connected to the network. Norfolk's infrastructure at the moment isn't capable of doing that. So there's this consultation to add it in. The controversy comes from that the National Grid wants these networks to be over land, and the local neighbours want it to be underground or offshore. But the cost of undergrounding cables, significant transmission assets, is huge. Like, I haven't got the numbers to hand, but it's significantly more. So we know we have to improve connectivity. We know we have to improve grid resilience to make sure that we can green our electricity network. We want solar panels. We want offshore wind. We want all of this stuff to have a really healthy generation mix.
Yep.
But actually, how do we get it into the network without bankrupting ourselves? And then having that reliance on intermittent generation makes electricity expensive. So you always have to have gas assets in reserve for when the sun isn't shining, when the wind isn't blowing. There are days where we have to just rely on gas. So you've still got to have that in the network mix as well.
Right.
And it all just comes down to connectivity. It comes down to how do we actually link all of these significant projects into our aging old infrastructure? Because it wasn't built for this. It was built to have decentralized, it's built to have these significant power stations, gas power stations, nuclear power stations dotted around the country and wires connecting it all up. What we're seeing now is these smaller projects that are distributed generation, so they're embedded in local networks. And how do you get that power out? How do you get that power that's generated in Scotland, for example, down to where all the users are in central London? How do we do that? And the costs associated with that, the physical infrastructure, it's going to be something that I don't think we've got an immediate answer for, but it is going to be a real challenge. It is a challenge now, and it's definitely going to be a challenge for at least another 15, 20 years, I expect.
Okay. Do you know something? I had never even thought about it. Because at the end of the day, I pass a smallish wind farm on the way to work, and Whiteley, I think it's called Whiteley Wind Farm. I think I don't know. I'm not sure. Is quite a big wind farm, kind of south of Glasgow. I may have got that wrong. Actually, it might be called something else. But anyway, so there is a very large one there, and I kind of just figured that there's electricity here, so there must be a cable somewhere, so they just tap into it, but obviously not. Wow. Okay.
No, so also up in Scotland, if you think about a Scottish landscape, it's very challenging. Beautiful, absolutely stunning. I love Scotland, especially the Highlands, but it's challenging. If you're building a wind farm up there, the costs of getting the power, even just from a coastal area into Glasgow, into Edinburgh, into other major cities, the cost of getting it where the power is actually needed is really, really expensive. So, and technologically, physically challenging. Trying to lay these cables and get power where it needs to get to without incurring losses and all of this other kind of technical stuff. But it is a really significant issue. It's not just a case of plugging it into a socket like we maybe expect.
I have to say, you just I guess, from an internet, let's compare it to a cabled internet. You can get that anywhere in the UK, and there's got to be cables or running the length of the country to provide that connectivity. So I guess I just thought it was the same with electricity, but obviously not. It's very much decentralized to the kind of local areas.
It's so every region has got its own local distribution network that are all linked up together, but each region is managed by a different company. And in southern Scotland, it's Scottish Power Distribution. In northern Scotland, it's Scottish Hydroelectric Distribution. So they're responsible for all these A roads, the distribution network. They're physically linked, yes, but each of them has their own costs associated with managing the network in that area. How many customers are in that area, how much generation is in that area. And so every area in the UK has these different kind of links. And Scotland has some of the highest distribution charges because you've got fewer customers and
Yeah.
longer distances to run your power and get everything matched up.
Right.
And that's just one element of the bill that has to be taken into account.
Yeah.
So if we can get better connectivity and we can get the right placement of the right generation in the right area, those distribution costs should come down. But it's such a fine balance to try and get everything kind of aligned. And I don't think there's any right answer, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a pretty big challenge. Okay, so I know we've touched on prices and price hikes and things like that already, but have the recent price hikes had an effect on your business specifically?
Yeah, they have. And it's mainly been around our customers are really worried. Our customers are really worried about what's going to happen to their bills, what's going to happen to their businesses, how are they going to get through this really challenging time. So the main effect on us really has been, how do we support them? How do we offer that reassurance? How do we protect them as best we can by doing nice early tenders, or advising whether to go out of contract if that's, financially the right choice for them. Really just offering some support and some compassion and some empathy, because we know how difficult it is. But then also that volatility has resulted in suppliers being unable to price. So if we can't even get contract options, we can't do anything to protect our customers. So having contracts pulled after they've been signed, but before they've been secured by the supplier, that's really hard to kind of explain to people. And that volatility and suppliers are also just really nervous around credit of customers and asking for security deposits where they wouldn't have done before, applying uplifts, premiums into prices that they present. They are pulling offers when they've reviewed accounts. And this is happening with more frequency than we've ever really seen. So it's been quite a challenging time. I feel like we're gradually coming out the other side, maybe. I hope that's not presumptuous of me to say, but we're starting to see more extended periods of stability in the markets, and suppliers are doing well supporting that need as well. So that's good.
Okay. No, I guess that, when something happens, there is that initial, it's like COVID, there's an initial period of, I guess, unknown and uncertainty. But then, as you got to live with it. It's here. You've got to do something. And you've got to then find a way to work on it. I was chatting to my neighbour who runs a construction company, and I just happened to be talking to him about timber because I'm having some work done on the house down south, and he said that he cannot get a price for timber that's held for more than 4 or 5 hours. Because they just don't know. They have the ability. You used to get quotes that say, and your quote is valid for 30 days. I get quotes that are saying your quote is valid for 1 hour. And okay, this was a number of months ago, so it might be different now. But it's just that initial thing that happens where there is uncertainty, but you've just got to find a way to work through it. And I guess that's just business. You got to find that way to do it, don't you?
Yeah, you just have to be adaptable, and you just have to have good relationships. So we pride ourselves on relationships with our customers and with our suppliers. So having that really high quality dialogue, how long your prices are valid for. Know that your account manager is going to go above and beyond to deliver something for you, which is ultimately in the interest of the customer. So it's hard, but we're getting through it.
Okay, that's really interesting. So is there a project that's interested you most across your career?
I'm going to be a little bit controversial here and actually say the building of Hinkley Point C, the new nuclear power station down in Somerset. Granted, it is behind schedule, it is over budget, but new nuclear power, in my opinion, is vital for energy security in the UK. And it's really disappointing that we moved away from nuclear for such a long time, rightly so. It's got to be managed safely, it's got to be secure. We've got to think about future generations and everything like that. But then for energy security, baseload power, nuclear, once it's on and it works, and it provides about 20% of our day-to-day electricity needs as it is. Hinkley Point C started its construction in 2016. It is very much delayed, very much over budget. It's now due to be finished in June 2026. It's costing about 22, 23 billion pounds. So significant, resource, which is being partly funded by EDF, the supplier, but also the French national supplier. EDF is Electricité de France, but it's also being supported by various Chinese investors as well. Now, controversially, I'm not that comfortable with that kind of funding mix for UK generation assets. But if nobody's going to step in to make sure we've got enough power, somebody has to pay that bill. So an investor has gone in. Hinkley is, once it's up and running, it's going to provide about 7% of the entire of the UK's power generation needs. It'll be providing power for about 5 million households from one power station. And over the lifespan of the build and everything else going on there, it's employed 25,000 people. So from a local economy perspective, it's really strong as well. I was actually fortunate enough pre-COVID to have a tour of Hinkley Point C whilst it's being constructed, and the scale of the challenge and the physically massive site is insane. You have to get a bus to get around the site. And as well as the security and everything else, but you can't walk from site to site because it is just so vast. You just couldn't do it. So I was really fortunate to be able to have a tour of that, and that really sparked the energy geek in me. I'm such a geek, and I got to go and see the control system at Hinkley Point B as well, which is still in operation. And it was just everything I needed it to be from an energy geek perspective. Just going, oh my God, this is amazing! So much generation. I just find that kind of thing absolutely fascinating, and it would have been nice if it had been finished by now, because conversations have been ongoing there since I think 2007, if not before, which is kind of when I entered the industry. But fascinating.
No, it does sound very fascinating. I do take your point, and you say it's controversial, but at the end of the day, right at this precise moment in time, a big part of our challenge is because the majority of our power a lot of our power is provided externally from the UK. And if relationships break down with countries that are then in charge of or even if it's only 7%, that's a pretty high number, 7% of your electricity network, then that's not a good thing. So I absolutely understand your point.
I think the project itself is good. We've got Sizewell C in Southwold, in Suffolk, near where I live, which is hopefully going to be starting soon. But this particular project, I think it's a shame there hasn't been more UK investment. But the government always said it was going to only allow nuclear without subsidy. I'm not sure that was the right choice at the time, but we are where we are. It's good to have the asset coming, but maybe we need to look at that for future investment.
No, fair point. So what has been your biggest success so far at Indigo Swan?
So I kind of struggled a little bit to think of something for this, but you've already touched on it, Brian, which I'm pleased to hear. It was actually something we implemented for property management firms, which was an approach to bulk tendering. And it was the way in which we developed a solution for aligning contract end dates, having fewer number of suppliers, but really providing value to property management firms and then obviously residents. So by pooling everything together and creating almost a property management or property manager's own little mini basket type thing. So each company has its own tender, but we can tender 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 meters at a time. Right. So it makes decision making much quicker. It makes admin much quicker. It makes the time burden for property management firms much, much lower. And then as a consequence, you've already mentioned our mutual client, where we worked with you guys on your system to be able to upload invoices, because historically that has been, well, I'm trying to think of a word that isn't rude. It was
Okay,
an
you
absolute
can
mess.
swear on it. It was a bit. You can swear on the air if you want. I
It
often do,
was
yeah.
an absolute mess.
Yeah,
a lot of property management firms were in quite a bit of a pickle. So having a solution where we could help, property managers could understand, and you guys could develop the software was just phenomenal. And I think now that it's proven to work and it's proven to be successful, I think it's going to start becoming the model that property management firms use going forward. And that's only a good thing, because it just makes life for all parties that much easier. So I was really pleased to be involved in the rollout of that, and from the tendering side, developing the spreadsheets that we use, all of that kind of thing, and really working on the customer relationships to get them to understand the value of it. And then, of course, Brian, getting to meet you at various conferences and things over the years, that's always been a highlight. It's been quite successful. I think that's the biggest success for me.
Yeah, no, it is, and I always remember years ago. I had a. I'm completely going a wee bit off topic here, but I had a client. Okay, so we had a supplier. Okay, so I worked for a legal software firm before. I still do work in legal, but this is pre me being being in business myself, and I remember sitting down with this supplier, and they supplied VoIP phone systems right at the beginning of VoIP phone systems being coming out there. And these were still working over, fiber didn't exist and broadband didn't exist in these days. And this guy came in and he's like, I'd like you to recommend our product. And I said to him, but we've got your product in 2 of our clients already. It doesn't work very well. And he's like, yeah, but I'd like you to recommend it, and I'll give you a cut. And I'm like, I'm not interested in recommending, and I'm not interested in taking a cut. And this guy was just absolutely kind of gobsmacked that I was refusing to, or I was pushing back on making a bit of money. And we do a lot within. So we supply, CPL supplies a huge amount of clients in software, especially in Scotland, and we put in or talk to them about a core number of kind of other people that we've met in the industry. Now, we don't take a cut out of that. We don't take any referral fees for that. And you guys don't even ask us to do it. But if we're ever speaking to someone who doesn't use your guys, we're absolutely happy to do that because of the successful implementation of these solutions that we've had over the kind of last 3 or 4 years. It makes our life easy, because we're well, okay, maybe it doesn't make our life easy, but it makes our clients' lives easier because we're bringing to them a solution that's going to save them posting 1,000+ invoices a quarter. Now, I mean, we did a calculation on this the other day, or one of our clients did, and they reckon that the time taken to process a single invoice is somewhere between 2 minutes and 5 minutes, right? That's because it's not just a case of posting it. You've then got to attach the invoice so that their client can see the invoice and all of these sort of things. Whereas that solution that's in place kind of takes that all out the window. So that's a huge amount of saving for our mutual clients over a year.
It really is. I remember one instance where I went up to one of our dear Scottish customers, and the lovely lady in finance. So I won't mention any names because she'll probably be embarrassed. But the lovely lady in finance, the first time we met her, she was hiding behind reams of paper bills, literally boxes of bills that the poor postie, I don't know how he delivered it without hurting his back, but they basically just arrived in the paper boxes that you'd put in your printer. It's just ridiculous. And it would take her days, if not a full week, to run through everything. And through the systems that we implemented, and the RPM system that you guys developed and really worked on to make valuable for property managers, I think she's down to about a couple of hours, half a day tops. That's just huge. And it just and also it's less wasteful because you don't have paper boxes and boxes of paper that you can't do anything with except for shred. You scan it in, you shred it, and then what? Like, it's just waste, isn't it? Whereas actually moving to e-billing, moving to spreadsheets, moving to PDFs, having bulk uploads. Oh, it's been fantastic. It really has.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. As saving, and the way I look at it as well is that that then gives our mutual clients, they save time, which gives them time to spend on other things to make the service that they provide their client better.
Definitely.
So it's a win-win everywhere. So
definitely.
Well, except maybe from the paper manufacturers and the Royal Mail. But anyway, we'll not go there.
That's a different podcast, Brian.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, that's all the questions I have. Jax has our standard 3 questions at the end of the podcast that we ever do. So and she has a new laptop, so you don't need to listen to her what sounds like her drying her hair when she's doing it. So Jax, do you want to fire up?
Yep, so Aimee, this is our final 3 quirky questions. What's your biggest failure across your entire career, and what did you learn from it?
So again, this was something that I found quite difficult to identify, because I was like, oh gosh, what have I really kind of messed up with? And I kind of came to, someone else brought this up to me and thought, oh, do you know, actually, that's a really good one. I once was headhunted, and I told my immediate line manager at the time that I wasn't happy, and I was seriously considering taking this other offer and everything. And she said I should leave. I was like, oh, okay, thanks for this. I thought I was a valued member of staff, but maybe I'm not. And my biggest failure was almost listening to her. I almost went and left, and I almost took that other opportunity. And actually what I've learned from that was it just didn't feel right. So I then spoke up. It was actually during Indigo Swan days. So I spoke to James, our managing director, and I learned that actually I could trust him. You've got to work somewhere with best leadership. You've got to work somewhere with a culture that you can really get on board with. You've got to work somewhere that implements change. So I was tempted by this opportunity because things weren't quite going the way I wanted them to here. So I spoke to James. We implemented some change, and ultimately I became really quite trusting of my own gut instincts, because I knew leaving wouldn't be the solution to the problems I was facing. And by nearly being tempted, because my immediate manager just went, yeah, fine, off you go. Nice to know you. I was like, oh, cool. But I'm so glad that I sat on it, I thought about it, and I spoke to James, and obviously, yes, 7 years later, it's been a fantastic time for me. And yeah, so I would just say, be brave, trust your gut, and don't be afraid of implementing change if things aren't going right.
Yeah, good advice. Good advice. If you ruled the world for a day, Aimee, what would you do?
Easy peasy. Mandatory office dogs. Done. I have got 3 dogs of my own, Jefferson, Doris and Mimi. Jefferson has appeared on many a video call with customers, including lots of our mutual clients, and he pops up. He has a wonderful time, and I love my dogs. They are such good de-stressors. They're such good companions, and I think everybody. I think there's been studies to say that mood is improved when dogs are in the office, and I think I could get everybody on board for it for a day. For that one day, if you've got an allergy, you'll have to stay home. I'm sorry, but the rest of us will enjoy mandatory office dogs.
Well, it's something we have, isn't it, Brian, in these offices between Arthur and Murphy?
Yeah. So yeah, Crawford has a black lab, doesn't he? Called Murphy, and Arthur's a miniature golden doodle. So I'm not to be fair, I'm not a dog fan at all, and in fact, I never wanted a dog. Sarah once suggested that we go out for the day to Carlisle. We appeared at near Carlisle. We appeared at this place, and I went, "We're not getting a dog." And the appeared, so it says, "Here's the one you've bought." And I'm like, "Okay, thank you for that." I wouldn't be without him. So he's a mix between. He looks like everyone thinks he's a Labradoodle or something, but that mix, they're all the same. But He's a mixture between a golden retriever and a poodle, but he's miniature. He's quite big. Actually, he's been very well behaved because about 5 minutes ago he appeared with his ball and started throwing it around. So he's now having another sleep. But Murphy spends a bit more time in the office now and Crawford's in than Arthur does. But it's always nice to have a dog in the office.
Yeah, definitely.
Not to be so sure our landlords agree right enough.
No,
we are in the basement and they have the ground first and second. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get an email at some point about Arthur barking, but never mind.
What kind of dogs have you got, Aimee?
So Jefferson is a wire-haired Vizsla. He is a big, ginger, hairy nutcase. He is an absolute sweetheart, though, and our lives have changed for the better for having him. He gets us out a lot more. He gets us up to Scotland. He gets us training. He gets us doing agility, all sorts of things. So that's been fantastic. And then Doris and Mimi are 2 Pomeranian cross Dachshunds. So you're going to
have to explain that.
So they are essentially, Doris is a little fluff ball. She weighs 4.5. She weighs 4 kilos. Sorry, Jefferson's about 28 kilos, and Doris is about 4 kilos, and she's all fluff. She's one of those dogs that if you get her wet, she looks about 3 times smaller than when she's all hairy. And then Mimi is she looks more like a miniature Dachshund, but she's the same mix of Dachshund and Pomeranian, but she only weighs 3.5 kilos, and she is absolutely tiny but ballsy as hell. And the pair of them run the house, and Jefferson is so hard done by. As the only boy, my husband insisted we had a boy dog because he was starting to feel outnumbered. Jefferson's the only boy. The little girls just bully him no end. I feel terrible. But it's an interesting and slightly odd dynamic. These 2 little rat dogs and then a great big orange nutcase.
Cool, that's nice. So when you're 70 and look back at your life, what will you be glad you did or feel proud of? Either something you've done already or something that you still want to do?
Yeah. So I'm currently 35. So I'm halfway through this reflection period, and I'm really proud of the adventures and the traveling that I've been able to do so far. So when I'm 70, I want to be able to look back and say, do you know what? I have visited some amazing places around the world. I've met some incredible people. I've had some outstanding experiences. So I've already managed to tick off a few countries, some notable ones being Iceland. I spent a month camping in Iceland. I've been to Cuba. I've been to Kenya. My husband and I spent 3 weeks in an RV in California. I've climbed Ben Nevis, which is pretty cool. I'm trying to add some more Munros to my Scotland list. I love coming up to Scotland. It's just a really special place for me. And in the next 35 years, I want to add to the list Costa Rica, New Zealand, the fjords, and some sort of travel across Canada as well. I think that would be amazing. And I love the UK. I just love being able to travel, go to new places. And I will be happy if I've been in a position where I can keep doing that for as long as I possibly can.
Cool. Excellent. Sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's been interesting. The Iceland one was definitely interesting. It was something that I had the experience to do, or the opportunity to do, when I was about 17. And camping in Iceland, I mean, like proper wild camping, you had to dig a hole for doing your business and all sorts, and it was quite a challenge as a teenage girl, but thankfully I was with a great group of people, and seeing glaciers, walking on the bottom of Hekla, the volcano, camping literally where there is nobody else for potentially hundreds of miles around you. And we were there in summer, so it was also about 22 hours of daylight a day. So it's just quite an odd, surreal experience. But goodness me, it's a stunning country, and everyone should go if they can. Yeah,
I do fancy Iceland.
Really, really good. Mm-hmm. Don't look at how much you spend on a packet of crisps, because when I was there, a packet of crisps was about £8.
Wow.
Yeah, and you can get cheap bananas though, because they grow bananas in greenhouses from their own geothermal springs. So
Wow.
there you go. Just anything imported though, that's
Nice.
expensive.
Yeah, of course. Oh, good one. Cool. Thank you.
That's all right.
That's fabulous, Aimee. Thanks very much for answering those. The one at the beginning question there about I'm thinking of kind of moving on, kind of thing, and that response is just, I mean, leadership is something that's very, very close to my heart, because I don't think a lot of, possibly the people that, certainly early on in my career, I don't think I experienced good leadership in many ways. And so it's always, we were talking about this earlier on another podcast that we were doing in our kind of leadership podcast series. And it's true, you work in you spend more time at work than you spend with your family almost, because you're asleep for most of that time, that you're not in work. And so you've got to make it an enjoyable place, and you've got to, these sort of things. And I always say that you should employ people who are better than you. You employ people who know how to do their job, and and that you can trust to do it. So to have a response like that is, I mean, it's very common though, and it's more common than I think, and it's just such a saying. Oh, you don't want to be here? Okay, well, you can just go then. It's absolutely ludicrous. People, you should be helping people with their careers, not kind of being upset or annoyed or feel threatened by the fact that they're doing well.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just so glad that that as a small company at Indigo Swan, we have got such a fantastic MD now in James. He really is, and I know that a lot of people listening to this will have met James and will think, oh gosh, he can't be like that all the time, he can't really be that great to work for. And genuinely, guys, he really is, and I wouldn't be the person I am today without his input. The company we have wouldn't be the company to work for without his input. And it doesn't mean everything goes swimmingly every day, of course not. I mean, he's still human, but he really is a different kind of person, and without being that cliche, he really is an inspirational leader. And I think I have a huge amount of time and patience and respect for James, and he's shown that back to me tenfold over the years, so it's great.
He was very inspirational and great to chat to in that leadership series that we were doing. So okay, well, that's great. Thanks very much for coming on.
Thank you.
We will hopefully, I don't know when you guys are back up in Scotland, but I don't know if there's a conference or a dinner or anything coming up with Property Managers Association. But hopefully, if there is, we can get to see you again.
Yes, we're planning on coming up if there is a conference this year, and if there isn't, we will still be up visiting lots of our mutual customers. I'm sure we can squeeze in a visit to you as well, Brian.
Yeah, good. Sounds good. Okay, thanks very much for coming on.
Thank you ever so much. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.